Ladies and gentlemen, we're back because we're now into overtime here on Sportswire Radio, and obviously alongside me is Chris Bizzea, the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, Justin Gianelli, and Patrick Trotty. Sans Donald Stewart because it's 4:30 a.m. Scotland time for Donald Stewart. So clearly Donald was up past his bedtime. But going back to finish our conversation on the NFL, there was some other news here off the field, which we kind of spoke about here quite a bit a few weeks back, and that's some announcing changes here. It looks like now we're going to see Joe Buck, according, I think it was in the New York Post I had read, is on his way to ESPN, and it looks like Kirk Herbstreit's going to be doing, I guess, the Thursday night Amazon package here, and I guess where does that leave Al Michaels? And it looks like Troy and Joe are going to be moving to ESPN, and Kevin Burkhart is going to be elevated to Fox. And guys, what's everybody's thoughts on that? I'll get Justin first because I know Justin's got a thought or two, I'm sure, on that.
Yeah, so in your mention of Al Michaels, I think Al Michaels is going to be play-by-play of the Amazon Thursday Night Football, so it looks like it'll be him and Kirk on Thursday Night Football. But this is a win for ESPN. You know, keeping Troy Aikman with Joe Buck, I think, is an absolute W in ESPN's book. And you know, they're a station that takes many L's, but they get a big W here. You know, having Buck and Aikman, the chemistry of those two together, I think, is vital to stick around. And you know, this is just a pathway towards ESPN/ABC getting a Super Bowl in the near future. Speaking of the Super Bowl, the next two of the next three Super Bowls are going to be on Fox. And it looks like Kevin Burkhart is first in line to be the new number one lead announcer. And I think that's an absolute home run for Fox. I mean, there's no replacing Joe Buck. I mean, Joe Buck has been around for so long, and he's a terrific announcer. But Kevin Burkhart deserves every bit of this. He deserves every bit of the promotion. And this also shakes up the World Series too, and it looks like that could be Kevin Burkhart's as well. I also heard Joe Davis, who does play-by-play for the Dodgers
and the Kings as well, local guy.
Yep. So it looks like he could be in line for the World Series. But I mean, this is a major shakeup because again, Fox has two of the next three Super Bowls. Who, you know, are they going to bring somebody in as a lead analyst with Kevin, or are they going to keep Kevin with Greg Olson, whom he's been working with since Charles Davis got the gig at CBS with Iron Eagle? So it'll be interesting to see what Fox decides to do. I mean, they're in a pressure-packed situation right now, knowing that, you know, the Super Bowl is theirs. So, you know, we'll see what they decide to do, but you know, I'm rooting for it to be KB. You know, ever since he popped on SNY in 2007 with the Mets, being the on-field reporter. You know, we've seen him rapidly rise through the broadcasting business, and you know, I couldn't be happier for a fellow New Jerseyan.
Absolutely, love that. Certainly. Congratulations to Kevin. I mean, for you, Patrick, any thoughts on all these different moving and shaking, I guess you can say, planes, trains, and automobiles, as the famous John Candy movie would say, when it comes to all these different announcers moving different places?
For me personally, it doesn't move the needle. I'm gonna watch regardless. You could only screw things up, in my opinion, with chemistry. As far, I mean, in the booth, the chemistry, and be careful what you wish for if you're bringing new people on. But I always like Kevin Burkhart from the little I've seen of him. I think Greg Olson might deserve a shot at bigger things too, and Joe Buck, I'll just plead the fifth.
Yeah, I think most people would kind of feel that way about Joe Buck. So I mean, that's certainly a fair point. I mean,
that was good.
Brad, I mean, any thoughts on all these different guys moving to different places, or it's all just about watching the game? I mean, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of opinion. First off, for ESPN,
Well, later, I'm sure you have a lot of an opinion. You're the brute force. You worry.
That's true. That's a lie. Yeah. There's no little opinion. But listen, when it comes to ESPN, I mean, they couldn't have gone any further low. I mean, they had Steve Levy, Brian Greasy, and Lewis Riddick doing Monday Night Football. So, I mean, this is obviously a significant upgrade from that. Even though I'm not going to say
disrespect them. That what they were. I thought they were a pretty good tandem. When they had Sean McDonough and Booger McFarland, you could trash those guys because they were bad.
Okay, so what I'll say is that obviously, I think that these two are obviously an upgrade in Aikman and Buck. And obviously, listen, at this point, it might not matter who's doing Monday Night Football because Peyton and Eli have taken over anyway. So I think that basically is going to take over in the end. But yeah, obviously, just going and continuing on Kevin Burkhart. Obviously, I've liked Kevin Burkhart ever since I was a kid, listening to him as the guy, the sideline reporter for the Mets. He was excellent, one of the best announcers I knew. And now that he's in this position and he's going to be the guy for Super Bowls to come is exciting. I think that he deserves it. I think he has a great voice, and I think he's it's just inspiring. A young guy who had to work his way up through the Mets organization, with SNY, and then eventually to this position. So I'm happy for Kevin Burkhart. My question now for Joe Buck. I don't know if you guys know the answer to this yet, but obviously we're talking football. What happens with baseball now?
Good question. That's a good question. I was thinking about that also. What happens?
He's out, right?
He's out. Is he with ESPN for Monday Night Baseball too? Or Sunday Night Baseball?
I don't know if that's in the new contract. I believe that they're going to. Did they announce a new play-by-play announcer for Sunday Night Baseball? Because it was Vasgersian, but I don't think it's Vasgersian anymore.
No,
he's going to be full time with the Angels.
Yeah, isn't it David Cohn and David Cohn is taking over for A-Rod.
Michael K, right? Was it Michael K?
No, he had the K and A-Rod cast.
Right. Cohn is with
wasn't it? Isn't it Shambi? Shambi?
I think it's him, David Cohn, and someone else.
I think Eduardo Perez.
There you go. I think that's it.
So that's going to be interesting. I mean, because what is Joe Buck now going to do in the world of baseball? Because he announces baseball games. So that's going to be interesting to see. What happens in baseball? Because we're talking all the football, but he also has been known for announcing big baseball games, of course. So
I wouldn't be surprised if ESPN's a little cutthroat and they cut John Shambi right from his feet and they put Buck in the booth.
Well, it's Joe Buck. I mean, to be fair, it's Joe Buck. If you're not
exactly.
Maybe he does the what do you call it? The Apple Plus games, right? Apple's got games on Friday nights.
That's right. Yep, that's gonna happen. Yep.
Never know.
John Gonzalez says here, had enough of Joe Buck. Good for Kevin Burkhart. Yeah, I think most people aren't fans of Joe Buck for a while. I mean, that's going back a long, long time. So
the one I want to get rid of is Nance.
What against Nance, though? What do you have against Nance?
I have nothing against Nance. The problem is Iron Eagle's better.
Okay, I could buy that. Iron Eagle's the best.
I'm a huge Iron Eagle guy.
Yeah, he's great.
But I feel like Nance though is good at calling golf. I feel like he's not bad at college basketball. I mean,
okay, then keep him at CBS, but make Iron the number one football guy.
Yeah, but CBS is not going to do that. Jim Nance is CBS. He is that network. Yeah, I just don't see him.
He's the voice of CBS, basically.
Let me get to Al Michaels, though, because it looks like Al Michaels is still going to go to Amazon with now Kirk Herbstreit. What do you guys?
That's what it looks like.
What do you guys think of that tandem here, Justin? I know you've always got a thought. What do you think about that tandem of Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit potentially?
Well, it'll be interesting because we really haven't seen much of Kirk calling NFL games.
What's he called? Like a handful of NFL games over the past year?
I mean, I last year he did
a playoff game, right? It was a playoff game or two and a doubleheader game, right?
Right. For ESPN, he did, yes. And he's obviously big in the world of college football. It'll be interesting to see now that he has a weekly role in the NFL as a broadcaster. But what's going to be interesting is going to be the chemistry between the two. And I think is what ESPN saw as really important when trying to lure Joe Buck away from Fox and get him to ESPN, because Joe Buck and Troy Aikman have been working together for 20 years. Oh, jeez. I would actually watch
we can do it. Let's go.
Well, listen, I got a better one. Listen,
First of the opening game for them, Detroit, Pittsburgh.
And
There you go.
we could air the radio call for that on Sportswire Radio. So if John Gonzalez and Brad Weiss want to call a football game or any type of game at any given time, we'll stream it on Sportswire. So
It'll be them just yelling back at each other. So
I'd even do a
Hey, listen,
play-by-play
that's
game.
entertainment. People might tune into that.
right. That's
there's
true.
listen, there's always somebody out there. Today we had a DJ Slippy as they call him, and we had people left and right tuning in from all over the world. So you just never know. There's some days that people tune in and you have no idea where they come from. We had Ernest Dove, who does some work with us, and he had a minor league segment with a guy, Stephen Villines, and people were tuning in from like 8 countries. So you just you never know. And John Gonzalez says he's in. So, all right. So I guess at some point during the season next year, we'll have Brad Weiss, the brute force, and John Gonzalez, our Adam Schefter, call a game of your choice. So we'll certainly let people decide that. Hopefully,
I think Patrick has a point. It's got to be Lions Steelers. If the game happens again, I think it's got to be Lions Steelers.
Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen for another 4 years. I'd be in to do a play-by-play as well.
All right, so we'll add a 3-man booth here. We got Gianelli, Weiss, and Gonzalez, and we're looking up the Detroit Lions schedule here because we got to get
the brute force cast.
Hey, listen, why not? Listen, I mean, why not here?
The best would be, the best would be Brad and John Gonzalez battling each other as analysts for their opinions while I do the play-by-play.
Dude, I mean, how many mics are there in a booth? I mean, is there enough mics?
Right.
Anthony Finkel, of course, in here from DPH Property Services. Who, Anthony, we read off your promo a little while ago. You definitely missed it. And anybody who, again, the promo code at Sportswire for DPH Property Services, your first week of weekly pickup service here for trash maintenance is free. $40 a week charge. All it is $40. So go to dph.nyc for more information. 347-228-2625. And Anthony Finkel, are you living in Florida right now? Because every week you coming in, it's in Florida. So, I mean, I guess maybe you've moved to Florida. How are you doing DPH Property Services? You must be like Clark Kent in a phone booth. And John Gonzalez says Haskins versus Goff. Hey, why not? Book it. Listen, we're going to book it here. The broadcast here is going to be on Sportswire Radio. So anybody else you think will move here when it comes to announcers, or are we all covered here when it comes to NFL announcers? Anything else I'm missing from all these different news over the past 24 hours that you think will change over? What about Mike Tirico? So Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth, everybody like that?
Tirico deserves a job too. I think he's great.
Who's that?
For games. But well, what is he doing now?
Who?
He does Notre Dame football.
He does Notre Dame football. He did the Olympics, and he did before they lost the NHL package. He was doing some NHL for them for NBC Sports.
He's great. He's another one. He's like Iron Eagle. The guy could do anything, and he just does a great job. I mean, but I don't know. I still think it's crazy how much these guys are getting paid to announce a game.
Well, I think Buckley thought was what, $11.5 million he's supposed to get, and Aikman's 5 years, $92.5 million. I mean,
that is
great work if you can get it, right?
He's making more money now than he did as a player, probably.
Yep.
I think it's, and I mean they're okay, but I mean I don't know. Like I think Patrick said it, you're gonna watch the game no matter what. There's been times that I've shut the game sound off and just put like music on just to listen to that.
Yeah, you know, my father used to do that with sports. He used to say way back in the day that certain announcers, you just tune him out. And you just put on like music in the background and listen to the game. I don't know if I could do that. I mean, there's certain people I guess you could. And I have the game, by the way, for John Gonzalez, Justin Gianelli, and the brute force Brad Weiss to call because the crack staff has pulled up the Detroit Lions schedule. So I'm looking at it right now. I mean, why not you guys call the Detroit Lions versus the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Oh God.
Yeah. You know what?
They can't
I'd be down for that.
That's a good thing, right? They can.
Hey, listen. Tom, you know who has that game? You know who has that game? Like what network yet?
No, I don't. But I
Well,
would.
that's like I'll say because I know I'll get it left.
It's in Detroit. It looks like.
If
So I would
it's
assume
in Detroit,
CBS.
CBS will likely
right.
take it.
Yeah.
Right, which I'm saying as a joke, we'll be better than Spiro Ditas. I mean, that's probably what's going to end up getting that
There you
game.
go.
Like
Or
Spiro
Andrew
Ditas, like
Catalan.
we're better than him.
All right. Well, I guess stay tuned, and that's for sure. I'm assuming going to be a 1:00 game. There is no way that is going to be a late game. So we'll definitely figure that out to say the least. I mean, listen. All these announcers are moving. But yeah, Tirico, I always liked Tirico, Chris. Tirico to me he did golf also for ESPN, was good at golf. He did college basketball in the past. I thought he was a solid one here. Speaking of college basketball, real quick, because I didn't get a chance to mention it for Tobacco Road Sports Radio, but any thoughts here? Big East tournament. Looks like there was a little bit of a minor upset here a little while ago. Creighton blew out Providence. Anybody following the Big East tournament or college basketball in general? Anybody have a thought or two on that? As now we're getting to Selection Sunday coming up here.
Well, I'd like to know. What the hell happened to Providence tonight. I genuinely would like to know. I mean, Creighton just wiped the floor with them. We just had an upset with North Carolina going down to Virginia Tech, and now they're set to face Duke and Virginia Tech versus Duke in the ACC final tomorrow. So that'll be an interesting matchup. I'm gonna express my disappointment in Ohio State after a very brutal loss yesterday to Penn State. And
I was disappointed with St. John's, by the way, because St. John's blew a 17-point lead yesterday.
That's a game you can't let get away.
And a tough foul at the end of the game. Very tough foul there.
And you can't chalk the season up to anything other than a disappointment for St. John's. I think there was with a very veteran group, a team that's been on the bubble, if not like just into the tournament over the last couple of years, and to have the year you did this year, certainly a letdown.
Does Seton Hall get in, by the way? You think Seton Hall's okay?
No, I don't think Seton Hall does. I think the team we're looking for out here in the tournament is going to be Rutgers. They lost 84-74 today to Iowa. They were the
18 and 13, though.
Yeah, but you know what? I think but with the wins that they've had this year, beating Iowa, beating Purdue, they've pulled off a number of wins that make you really believe they belong in the tournament. And I think they are. I think they're right on the bubble of in firmly.
Like last four in, last four out kind of
right.
deal?
They're on the bubble of in/play-in, but I don't think they should be on the outside looking.
But you don't think Seton Hall gets in with over 20 wins?
Yeah, I mean they've had such an up and down season, and the Big East is not what it used to be.
No, it's a very weak Big East this year.
Yeah, the Big East is not what it used to be in terms of the number of teams that are going to get into the tournament. So, I mean at 21-10, I mean maybe they sneak in. I mean, Providence is going to get in, Villanova's in, UConn's going to be in. Creighton's in. We have to find out who the winner of the conference will be too for the automatic bid. I don't know. Seton Hall to me is a bubble team. I don't know. I don't know that you're taking more than 4 Big East teams in the way the conference is laid out.
Okay, all right. Let me get some of the guys' thoughts on it because I know we're all sort of into college basketball at the moment. I mean, for you, Brad, any thoughts on that? I mean, do you agree with Justin? Does Seton Hall get in? Because I do find Seton Hall to be a little fascinating here in terms of where they end up here, and maybe a thought on any other things college basketball related.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I actually have a bunch that I want to talk about. But with Seton Hall, I listen, and just a funny statement. One of the guys, Jared Rhoda, one of their best players on Seton Hall, is actually a Baldwin kid who I played against in high school. Yeah. So just to put that into a proper perspective. But I think Seton Hall, just like Justin said, I'm actually going to put up a few teams. I'm actually looking at Joe Lunardi's bracketology right now and putting together some teams that are on the bubble and some of the teams first out and last in, which I'll talk about here in a second. But a couple things that I have to say. First of all, Tom Bryce, I'm sorry. The people of Staten Island cannot be that
I
happy.
knew this was coming with Doug Niblock.
I gotta give a shout out. He's a great former teammate of mine. All right, and Doug Niblock, gotta give a shout out. Bryant University, they got that win against
Director of basketball operations, right? Is it operations he's director of?
Yeah, he's got a specific title, but he's on that bench, and he's definitely done a good job with the rest of the staff there. Even though that was a crazy game, you guys know what happened in the stands. I mean, that was insane. But ultimately, in the end, Bryant, led by Kiss, that guy's pretty damn good, leading scorer in the nation.
Yeah, Bryant was a real. Listen, I mean, Wagner had quite a season, and a couple of people who've called up in here in the past, like Joey Bostrom, is a huge Wagner fan, and Jason Hart is somebody else I'm friends with on Facebook. Everybody was high on Wagner, but that Bryant team going into that building, listen, it was certainly for the Wagner fans. It certainly made the Juwan Howard situation look kind of pedestrian.
And then you just led me into the other game I wanted to talk about, which was Indiana against Michigan. Mike Woodson against Juwan Howard, and the experience won, and the suspended man lost. So ultimately, the guy who decided to slap the assistant coach came back, and his team was not ready to go that game, and Indiana outplayed them, even though Michigan had the big lead. Michigan had that big lead, but they blew it, and Mike Woodson looked a lot more prepared that second half and a lot more experienced coaching in those situations than Juwan Howard, because Mike Woodson led the team back. So in that,
Mike Woodson's a good coach, by the way. Mike Woodson's a very good coach.
Okay, listen, Tom, you remember my opinion on this. I never thought the Knicks should have gotten rid of Mike Woodson.
No, you're absolutely right.
One of the worst things that they did, and obviously that was Phil Jackson, but Mike Woodson was a great coach.
Hey, listen, with the Hawks, he turned the Hawks franchise around, won with us. I mean,
and look, Indiana, now with that win especially, they've cemented themselves into the tournament. Indiana's going to be in. Now, I actually have a question for Brad, because this speaks to his coaching, experience now that he's the coach in high school. So, Bellarmine University, their first year in the NCAA Division I.
Yep.
They win their conference tournament. They are not allowed to participate in not only now the NCAA men's the field of 64. They can't participate in the NIT. I mean, as a coach for you, I mean, how the hell do you even handle that? I mean, you pull off this remarkable season, you win the conference tournament, which a conference champion is an automatic bid.
Right.
And now you got to go home.
Yeah,
because
that whole situation was
so they're not eligible in the first year or two.
And Justin, is that the same situation where the team that actually lost to them is the one that's making the tournament? Because
no, I don't. No, actually, I don't think it was. I think there was another team.
Right, it was another team.
I think there was another team finished with a better record, but the team that lost made its way to the finals.
Right, but in a similar situation where, I mean, how ridiculous is that as a coach, basically knowing that, you win something, but you get nowhere for it.
You get nothing, yeah, right?
I mean, that's just, it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. It's hard to coach that, even though
it happened in college football one year. Wasn't it Auburn one year that won a bunch? I'm trying to think. I think it was Auburn one year that won a conference and didn't even get into the postseason. I mean, somebody can fact check on it. So it does happen, one of these quirks, whether it's probation or whether it's a first time thing. I mean, it does happen.
With the millions of NCAA rules that they have, it's just, it's hard to keep track of all of them. But ultimately, as a coach, listen, you rally around the guys, and every season you come in, you're trying to win, but it's hard to win. And props to the coaching staff there. It's hard to win when there's no motivation to win because there's nothing that you can do. Like you can't go any further than a certain spot. And that's just, it's a hard thing as a coach. You always want to coach. And the one thing that's tough about being a JV basketball coach here on Long Island is that there aren't any playoffs. So you're coaching, right, just for the record in the regular season, just to get the kids better for the next level. Yeah. So it's a hard thing to do, trust me, because you always want that motivation. Oh, we got to make the playoffs. Oh, we want this. But ultimately, it's a tough situation as a coach. But real quick, Justin, I want to say this because I'm looking at, again, the bracketology by Joe Leonhardi of ESPN. So he has, and this is interesting, the last four in right now, he has Wyoming, Wake Forest, Xavier, and Indiana. as the last four in right
Yeah,
now.
but Xavier lost to Butler, though, a bad Butler team. He still has Xavier
Butler's
in.
not good
And
this
again,
year.
this is why I'm bringing it up, because I think it's a an interesting point. Then you got the first four out being SMU, Dayton, the team that just won Virginia Tech. This has got to change, in my opinion, and Oklahoma.
Yeah,
so,
but Dayton
Now,
survived.
so here's the question: does he have Michigan firmly in, or does he have Michigan like totally out?
Michigan's in, and so is Rutgers.
He's got Michigan in.
That is the biggest crock of bleep in the
And wait,
in the
and
world.
hold on, and he's got Dayton out, but Dayton could still win the A10. They beat Massachusetts. I was watching that.
Right,
before
and
we
Virginia
came
Tech
here.
can win the ACC because
Right.
Virginia Tech should be moving its way towards the tournament. They're in the ACC finals tomorrow.
What's Michigan's record? Like 19-15.
Michigan
19.
is 17-14.
He's got them in.
That is not
Get
a
outta
tournament
here.
team. That is not a tournament team.
17-14?
I'm sorry. That's not.
St. John's was 17-15. Put them in.
I'm sorry. That's not in. And this is not me hating on Michigan. This is me looking at a 17-14 team. You don't deserve to be in. I'm sorry.
I 100% agree, and that's why I brought it up, because I figured that there would definitely be some debating here, and obviously, we'll see how these ultimate, tournaments finish.
Right. It's just a bracketology. I mean,
yeah. No.
Indiana, to me, Indiana should now be firmly in, not last four in, not firmly in. Like, you could start moving them into maybe the 10 or 9.
And what's Indiana, like 20-13 or something like that? 21? They had 21 wins or something like that? 20.
Indiana's 20-12.
Let me go back to the Big Ten real quick.
Yeah, I think if you won 20,
Indiana's
you're in-
20-12.
Yeah, Indiana's 20-12.
they
And just for the
screamed-
record, Dayton, Dayton is 23-9.
I was watching Dayton today because they were playing UMass and they came from behind and won an interesting game that went pretty much to the last seconds there, 75-72. And I kind of think if they're still alive that they should get in. But, I mean, Rutgers, I guess Rutgers. Michigan, though, I don't know. And Xavier in, they lost to a bad Butler team in the tournament. I mean,
I wouldn't have Xavier, and I don't like that.
me either. I don't
No,
think
I
Xavier should
wouldn't.
be in there.
I wouldn't.
Anybody for Patrick and Chris? Any thoughts on the NCAA tournament? Anything that strikes you coming in here so far? Anything, you guys?
Not really for the tournament, but let me ask you guys a
Sure.
more broader question, because I see the Big East. They're, like you said, they're a down year. And I look at St. John's and we all know St. John's years ago, they were so much bigger than they are now, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
How do you, maybe, Brad, maybe you know this. How would St. John's get back to that? How
Well,
can they get the recruits there?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you're talking about the Chris Mullen days, right? You're talking about those days when they were
Mark Jackson, Walter Berry, Bill Wennington,
right. And listen, those are a lot
Malik
of
Sealy at the end of it. Yep.
a lot of prominent names that were there. But ultimately, listen, it's not that easy sometimes. But I do think that St. John's is still, especially being in the Big East, I think there's still a team that, gives people attention, but maybe not as much attention as they should get. So there's got to be different ways that you can persuade players to get there. You got to obviously do a really good job recruiting. You got to find a way to recruit, better players. But listen, they're right now, I would say, an average team at best. They need to get a player or two, and they need to get maybe another big name on their coaching staff or something, just to give them a little more of that.
They had Mitch Richmond. They had Chris Mullen. I mean, they had Steve Labb. I mean, they had big coaches.
They
they had
keep
them.
trying. They keep trying, and they always end up as a massive disappointment. I mean,
I feel like also the New York basket.
Are they going to? What are they going to do with Mike Anderson? Is Mike Anderson going to be held responsible for this down season? Because this was a team that was supposed to do it. You had Champagne back. You have Posh. I mean,
Champagne was arguably one of the best players in the Big East. No question.
Yep, fair, very fair, and they didn't get the job done. It just simply put, they just didn't get the job done.
I'll just say I never really liked the Mike Anderson move from the beginning. I didn't really like it. So they got to do a little bit of a better job right now, and I think it's a crucial time for St. John's to get back on the right path. I think that they're a team that can compete in the Big East every year for the most part.
I also feel like though that the New York basketball scene from 40 years ago is so different than what it is today.
Well, we know why.
It's not the same.
We know why.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charlie. Put the comment out there. We know why. We know why.
Collegiately, it's just not the same. I mean, Seton Hall had a little run in the '90s. Rutgers is just starting to get good now.
Rutgers hasn't been of any good note until now, really. I mean,
and it's all thanks to Steve Peichel. I mean, after the job he did at Stony Brook University, coming over to Rutgers, he's really changed the narrative of the Rutgers program, and he's doing it in the Big Ten, which makes it all the more impressive. And he's the only guy who. Kevin Willard to an extent right now.
I mean, Seton Hall's okay.
Those are the only two coaches you could really trust.
Well, there is one. Unfortunately, they were eliminated early on in the MAC tournament, and his name is Rick Pitino. He is the other. He is always there. He's almost, how can I put it? What would the word they would use in politics? He's kind of waiting in the wings. That's the word. Rick Pitino is still out there. I mean, I know it's Iona, but I mean, Rick Pitino is the guy that could turn things around, and Iona definitely turned things around. Although it's been a very, very successful run there in Iona because our very dear friend, John Matejka, was a part of that program for many, many years after he left St. Joseph's, Long Island. But John Gonzalez has it on here, and I've got about 10 or 15 minutes here, and I want to get to it very quickly, and that is Dolan time. And John says, yeah, Pitino obviously would be the guy that you can count on to turn around a program, but the Brute Force, I mean, I was getting ready to say New York Knicks maybe playoff run here and 4-game winning streak. They had won 3 in a row here, but it is Dolan time. So you care to comment the last week here on, and I guess you could say maybe those resurgent New York Knicks, although Cam Reddish is now out for the season, which does put a bummer on this youth revival here.
Did you really just say resurgent Knicks? Are you serious?
Hey, they won 3 in a row before tonight. They won 3 in a row.
Oh, please.
There was a caller last night on the Fan, Omar from Brooklyn, and he was going on talking players.
I can't stand Omar.
Oh, please. Listen very carefully, all right? I am not going for this trick. I'm not going for this nonsense that people.
And he got
really get so I quit on us.
See what happens.
Poor guy. Poor Brute Force. I mean, I know it's getting late here. We want to end the stream soon, but certainly the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, has been, I guess, disconnected. I mean, Justin, you want to riff off that very quickly before the Brute Force returns in here, before we get closing thoughts? Anything you want to add on the New York Knicks and the mini revival here before tonight's loss?
I mean, look, they were starting to play some better basketball, and Tom Thibodeau was changing up his rotations a little bit, so you were starting to see some of the younger guys get more action. But look, it's going to be about who is going to be on this roster going forward, and they do have. Yeah. We lost it to a point. We lost it to a point that he got frozen in time, and now we lost him. But look, they need to figure out who's a keeper and who's not, because they don't have bad pieces on their roster. I just don't think they're very well put together, and that's on Leon Rose. That's on the front office. So that's really my thoughts on the Knicks. I do want to give a shout out and congratulations to Greg Popovich, who tonight became the all-time winningest coach in NBA history. His 1,336th win now passes Don Nelson. For the
I was thinking about that the other day with Don Nelson. I mean, Nelly Ball and Nelly, and he held that record forever. I almost feel like he was never going to relinquish that record.
I know, but then Greg Popovich kept on coaching, and
good point.
He hasn't indicated he's done anytime soon.
And nor should he be. I mean, listen, he's kind of like the Belichick of the NBA. I mean, he's pretty much San Antonio, so they're not going to make a move anytime soon. And listen, congratulations, though, to him for sure, to say the least here. And your Brooklyn Nets got a much-needed win in the last couple of games here. The Nets look like maybe things are starting to pick up here finally.
They played a lot better, and one of the things that I was driving home at the start of the game, so I was listening to Chris Carino and Tim Capstraw.
That's a good listen, by the way.
On the
That's
fan,
a good
they're
fan.
great. They're great. I love Carino and Capper. I think they're terrific announcers. But one of the things that he mentioned when he announced when they were reading off the starting lineup, first time all year that they've run the same starting lineup 3 games in a row, and that is big continuity that they have been lacking all year long. And I just didn't the biggest thing I enjoyed the most from last night's game against Philadelphia was basically just Seth Curry rubbing it in his father-in-law's face at, look what you guys did. You traded me. He just staring down at Doc Rivers saying, thanks for trading me to Brooklyn. But look,
did I hear a few Brooklyn chants in that game?
There were a ton of Brooklyn
Nets
fans at the Wells Fargo Center last night, and look, the Nets just need to get into the playoffs because they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now, whether or not Kyrie Irving plays full time, that remains to be seen. But I mean, now that Kevin Durant's back on the court, my worries are much less with the Brooklyn Nets.
But Ben Simmons has got to come out. I mean, listen, the longest injury in history. I mean, I
don't know what's going on with that. And
we've talked about this a couple different times, and I heard people calling up in the fan this whole week, and I'm saying to myself, this dude has what, a 2-year injury at this point? I mean, seriously.
Well, not a 2-year injury. He played last year.
You know what I'm saying. I know that's not that long.
But you know what it is? I don't know if it has anything to do with the grievance he plans on filing against the Philadelphia 76ers for the fines and trying to recoup the fine money back. I'm not sure what that's about. And maybe the Nets are holding him out for that reason. Because I can't imagine it takes this long to ramp up. The trade deadline was a month ago. He's been a Net for close to a month now. And at some point,
it's been over 10 games now since the trade deadline.
Exactly. And we've been waiting for him to come back. It was just before the All-Star break. So at some point he needs to get out on the court and he needs to he needs to play. Now, the good thing about the way the Net roster is constructed is he's not going to be asked to score. I mean, with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, there's plenty of scoring.
And Curry can score also too.
And why can't Irving play in Brooklyn now?
Because what they did with New York City again, so hokey, was you can now eat or go to anywhere without showing your vaccine
I thought he could play now.
But for the employee mandate, that wasn't taken away, so that falls into that.
It's a private sector mandate, yeah. So, but here's the funny thing: he could sit on the court, he can sit on the sidelines, but he can't play.
He can't.
So, but here's what's going to happen. But
tell me how that makes sense.
I feel that
New York City, there's a lot of things that don't.
Yeah, it's crazy.
New York
but
City.
what I feel is that by the time the playoffs roll around, Kyrie Irving will be eligible to play at home. No, John Gonzalez, they will not be double trouble because Harden brings to a small level in the playoffs. James Harden bleeps the bed in the biggest moments. I mean, if he wanted to go out and stick it to the Nets last night, he would have came out and scored 50. I mean, it's just.
You felt the game was over after the first quarter. I mean,
guess what? Because James Harden is bricking every other shot. I mean, he was 1 for his first 11.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair,
he was bricking shot after shot and making enough bricks to build a house. So, I mean, look, it's going to come down to Kyrie Irving playing full time in the playoffs. That's what's going to come down.
I'll tell you one thing, and I want to get
Kyrie Irving is one of the most talented players in all of basketball, and he showed it the other night with that 50-point outing against the Charlotte Hornets. So, look, the roster is gelling together right now. You're getting good scoring out of Seth Curry. You've gotten solid rebounding and defensive play out of Andre Drummond. So they're starting to build a chemistry together. Now it's about integrating Simmons into this lineup where he can guard the best scorer. He can
All right.
defend down low and facilitate the basketball because Kyrie Irving has no issue playing off the ball and being a spot-up shooter as well.
No question about all those things, and I want to get the Brute Force back in here before I get out of here and get closing thoughts, because I do want to get the Brute Force's take on the NBA, and then I'll work Patrick and Chris in here, and we'll get out of here. But the Brute Force, anything you want to riff off? You were kind of lost in translation there, and that whole New York Knicks NBA kind of rant, and where did you leave off, and what would you like to say before we move on here?
Yeah, let me just get it back off my chest, all right? Because, John Gonzalez, I could just tell was getting so excited, and then it came off the screen. He probably got upset. So I'm back, okay? I'm here, okay? So listen carefully, John Gonzalez. Listen, all New York Knicks fans out there. Shame on all of you. Shame on all of you for going crazy about 3 straight wins on the road.
From Brooklyn almost lost it. I mean, he wet the bed the other night on the fan.
I mean, listen carefully, all right? They won 3 games, okay? I'm happy for the New York Knicks. They beat the Clippers on the road, okay? The Clippers didn't play great that night. Okay, they beat the Sacramento Kings, so everybody's beaten at this point. Okay? Yeah. And then they just beat the Dallas Mavericks, who couldn't make a 3-pointer to save their damn life. And
Dallas was due for a loss, to be fair. Dallas was due for a
and we're all like, oh, they won 3 straight. Give me a damn break. This is the same New York Knicks team. Okay, Julius Randle had 46 points against Sacramento. It's like, oh, he's back. He ain't back. He played the Sacramento Kings, for God's sake. Please. Okay, so the New York Knicks, all he's going to give me this nonsense about how they've won 3 straight games. Oh, brother, they're only 4.5 games behind of the 10th seed. Give me a damn break. The fact that we're even talking about the damn 10th seed is an embarrassment in its own self. Okay? Please. The New York Knicks are awful. They are terrible. James Dolan is a disaster. All right? We just talked about it before. Why is St. John's off the map? Because New York basketball is off the map because of James Dolan. He has ruined it single-handedly. The Knicks are supposed to be the example, the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena, New York basketball, and they are a completely abomination of all that. That is why, okay? And James Dolan is the ultimate reason why. But to get back to a team that is a playoff team, all right, and is in all right, that one of those play-in spots, which is why New York Knicks fans, are you serious? You're excited about the 10 seed? We're just gonna get our butts kicked by whoever the hell's there. Okay, so let's just get to that point. Okay, but overall, the Brooklyn Nets, I heard Justin talk about it a little bit. It was definitely an impressive win on the road against the Sixers. Listen, their team looked great. Ben Simmons was getting booed and getting,
that was funny to see him walk in there. That reminded me so much of wrestling. I have to say, when Ben Simmons came out to the Wells Fargo Center, that reminded me so much of wrestling. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, but ultimately, I thought it did well. I thought it was good that he was in that environment and kind of got to hear it. But, in the end, we obviously have to see him play. And that's going to be the most important thing, obviously, for the Nets is to see him play, to see all those 3 guys play. And, just like you guys said before, I mean, New York City, come on. Really? Like, Kyrie Irving can sit on the bench, but he can't play? Like, what is the point of that? So they have to get that out. That's just unbelievable at this point, that Kyrie Irving can enter the building, sit on the bench, but not play. And I think just like Justin Gianelli said, it's ultimately going to come down to, right, whether or not Kyrie Irving, right, can play full-time for this team. Because, listen, I see the Brooklyn Nets getting out of that play-in tournament. And right now, if they were
on the road game, because they'll be on the road, so it's advantage Nets.
Well, hold on, because they might even have to play on the road against the Raptors, where Kyrie can't play either because Canada hasn't allowed it. But I still, even without Kyrie Irving, see the Nets getting out of the play-in tournament. That's number one. Now, the next issue becomes, let's just say right now, I think if they win the play-in tournament, they get that 1 win, they would play the Milwaukee Bucks right now, I believe. Okay.
No, I think they play the Miami. Wouldn't they play the Miami?
Well, Miami's number 1 right now. So if they're the 8, if the Nets end up being
they play Miami,
if the Nets end up being the 8 seed, it's probably Miami.
They play the 7-8 game, right? The 7-8 game. If they win that first game, they get the 7 seed.
Right.
You're right. Yes, you're right. It would be the 7 seed, so that would be
right, which would put them against the 2 seed, which is right now Milwaukee.
So they beat Milwaukee last 2 weeks ago.
If you're going into a 7-game series with no Kyrie Irving full time against Milwaukee, I think that serves as an issue. I just think, listen, KD could do, listen, when everybody's going to say we saw them last year with, James Harden hobbling, Kyrie not playing, and they, by a toe, didn't win. All right, so, listen, I do think, though, that Milwaukee now battle-tested, now a championship roster, now, I think got better with more depth on the roster. I ultimately think that without Kyrie Irving playing full-time, that's a problem for the Nets. I think it's going to be a problem against Milwaukee. I think it'll be a problem against Miami. Miami's a great defensive team. Everybody forgets that. They're playing great offensively, but they're a great defensive team.
Yes,
so ultimately, that's going to be the key thing. And right now for the Philadelphia 76ers, the last thing I'll say is that James Harden, you got to prove to us that you can come.
You know what? He's one of those players.
You have to prove to us at some point you can get into a big game and perform, and you just haven't. And when is it going to happen? Because until it does, it's just going to hold back whatever team he's on and Justin Gianelli until he proves it. Is it completely 100% right about James Harden?
Listen, out of the big three, the Nets traded the one guy who doesn't have a championship pedigree. Kyrie Irving is a championship. Kevin Durant has 2 championships. Kyrie Irving had one of the most clutch shots in NBA Finals history in Game 7, 2016. So, I mean, look, I know the Nets wouldn't do this, but if I were the coach, I'd be the one who had the balls to say, Kyrie, you're suiting up. You'll hide on the bench for a little while. I'm gonna sneak you into the game. Check him in.
You got to mention some interesting takes here, to say the least, and those are some very interesting takes, and I'm sure, hopefully, we don't have to ponder and deliberate here. But before we get out of here, I want to work in some closing thoughts from everybody here. I mean, I'll go with Patrick and Chris. Anything you guys want to share before we get out of here? I got about 7 or 8 minutes here left. I mean, anything that you guys want to say in particular? Could be anything baseball related, whatever else is on you guys' minds.
Yeah, Patrick.
Just looking forward to free agent frenzy and just seeing how that goes, and a little March Madness next weekend. But until then, baseball. Just seeing.
I think baseball rules the day now that baseball has gotten it right. I think that we'll certainly spend a lot of time on March Madness as much as we can, but I think baseball coming back is certainly what we needed here with everything going on, and looking forward to that. And I would assume with the Talking Rivals show on Monday, maybe we'll get into some of that, some of those transactions and such. And
kind of looking forward. Hopefully there'll be some moves to kind of grade out, but if not, just looking forward, seeing what the Yankees do with first base, center field.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see with all these teams, and I guess a condensed free agent period. I guess it's going to be a very condensed free agent period in spring training, and it'll be interesting to see all these different things here. And I'm not going to even say what John Gonzalez just.
I'm reading it. I'm just.
I don't even want. I don't, because if God forbid somebody watches this and says I condone that, and I'm not trying to defend.
You know what I heard too? Getting back to Kyrie Irving real quick.
Sure.
If he plays, all it is a fine that Brooklyn would have to pay, right?
All right. So then why don't they just pay the fine? I mean,
right. That's what I mean. I mean, it's $5,000 or something.
I think that would be considered in the playoffs for sure, and they should.
Yeah.
So why don't they just pay it? I mean, what's the big issue then? Why don't they just?
Right. I think they're concerned about public perception. I mean, I hate to go down this road, but all these workers getting fired for refusing the vaccine, or the ones who stayed on their job because they didn't want to get the vaccine, but they did. I think it just presents a bad look. But at some point, Mayor Adams has to just say, look, we got to get back to work. I mean,
well, he kind of made those comments the other day, but I don't think it's a third rail issue. That's the problem.
Yeah, and look,
healthcare workers and everybody else, they get
and so far I've really not had many issues with anything that he has said or done so far.
Sure.
So I mean, look, it's going to be a logistics thing, and we'll see what happens. But I do think by the time the playoffs roll around, I think we'll find out whether or not Kyrie's full-time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we would hope, I think the one thing that's the advantage is, again, and I'm not trying to be an epidologist, whatever they want to call it, whatever scientist, doctor, but with the weather warming up, for sure, you would think that would even lower these COVID risks. But again, don't take it from me. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist, anything like that. Brad, any closing thoughts you want to share? Anything you'd like to plug before we get out of here? I got a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure. So I already discussed my social media. Once again, it's BWeiss20 on Instagram, Brad Weiss on Twitter, BradWeiss20 on Twitter, and searching Bradley Weiss on Facebook. Certainly, listen, I'll say one more thing about the Knicks very quickly, and I'll say this. The 10 seed right now that you're looking to chase is the Atlanta Hawks, which is the team that eliminated you from the playoffs last year. So that's the motivation to get to that spot to potentially play that team. You already got your butts beat last year. So let me just put that in that perspective. In regard to baseball and free agency, one name that came up today, surprisingly, for it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but Michael Conforto's name came up today. And for not the right reasons. There's two teams that supposedly are interested in him. You ready for them, Tom Rice? The Arizona Diamondbacks and the Miami Marlins. Two teams that I'm not sure if Mr. Michael Conforto would want to really play for, but maybe the only ones that will live up to his price, which for me personally, he needs to get his asking price down. I can't see Michael Conforto being a guy who wants to play for a team that's not going to compete for many more years. Just to put your asking price down, get on a team that's actually going to contend. Because listen, you're going to get money, but you already had a high asking price to begin with. So I know he's a Scott Boras guy. I know it's not the way it goes with him, which is the problem. But ultimately, Michael Conforto, I guess, enjoy playing for the Miami Marlins and losing for many more years. That's all I got to say. That's I guess what's going to end up happening with Conforto, which is sad for somebody who liked Conforto as a Met.
Yeah, I always liked Conforto, but I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with that. What are you doing?
Yeah, and then again, that's just the way it is. But again, he's, I guess, going for his money. So that's all I got to say about that. Excited for the NCAA tournament. I'll definitely have a bracket, both men's and women's. I'll have that out.
Good. Share that.
And get that going. We'll share that. We'll talk about that next week. Definitely excited for that. And also the last thing I'll say to you, Tom, I was at All-American Burger today. And I will say that 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be back on the softball field for the LI Brew Crew. So trips All-American are going to get more and more. Jason Gaudiezzo, Jason Vecina.
Wait, hold up. You were at All-American Burger in Massapequa?
I was today.
What time?
Oh, wow. Justin was there, too.
I had lunch there today. I delivered in Amityville.
What time was it? Because I got a message on Instagram about this. What time were you there? What time was Brad there?
I had to be like after 2, like 2:30.
You just missed me. I was there at I got there at 1:45.
Oh, wow!
Oh, that's crazy. But ultimately, we talked about on the SJC show that time will come when we all meet at All-American Burger.
What's today? March 12th, technically. So let the weather warm up in maybe the middle of April. We'll figure out maybe something late afternoon, early evening. I'll come down there to the All-American Burger because now I'm curious about this place. Yeah, I mean, how far do everybody? I know Brad. About you, Chris. How far are you from Massapequa?
10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Okay, all right. So maybe
you're right, but you're right by there.
Maybe we'll work it out that we'll all meet up there and such.
For me, from if I travel from home, it's like 20-25 minutes. But
okay,
you take Sunrise Highway into Massapequa. That's really not.
Yeah, I saw it was right off. I was looking at directions for it, and it was right there. So I think that's gonna.
Yeah, hop on Sunrise Highway, get down to Merrick Road. It's pretty simple.
All right, so
I love that place. So we should definitely.
All right, so that's my bucket list thing. Yeah, we'll figure that out. Maybe let's say the 12th, so maybe toward the second to third week in April. We'll figure out a nice day outside. So I don't want to come out there and it's like 35 and like this later today.
Yeah, no, because we have to eat outside there too.
That's why I said that. I don't want to go.
I don't want to. On like a Saturday afternoon.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like a 60-degree day or something like that, I'd be happy to come down there or something like that. Yeah, BS with the guys, and we'll definitely play a day. So all my Long Island people that are on the stream and listening to this, definitely come on down and meet me, and we'll have a good time, and we'll document that. So we'll figure that out. Maybe, like I said, the second or third week in April. So So that's on the bucket list. And last thing I'll say, the Brute Force, when it came to All-American Burger, and Chris and Justin will probably get this, why haven't you tried the ice cream next door? Apparently Marshall's is supposed to be the thing there. Why?
I've never
Yeah, I
tried it.
know. I'm a dessert guy too, so it's
I know
definitely.
that. That's why I'm like surprised.
Yeah, for me,
I'm a dessert guy, so I got to do it. I got to do it. I don't know
Yeah.
why I haven't. I got to do it.
for me, the reasoning is it's a 30-minute lunch break, and I've only gone there
You
on
only got
lunch
time.
break, working in Massapequa.
I got you. Now, that makes sense. I mean, is the ice cream, for the guys that have tried it here, is the ice cream like part of the course? Is it worth the ice cream? Anybody try it? Anybody? No? Chris, Justin, anybody thought on the ice cream real quick? Is it?
No, I've never tried
I've
it.
never been
Okay,
there.
all right. So then you're not the only one that Brute Force. Okay, so you're not the. That's like for before we get out of here. That's like when you go to L&B Spumoni Gardens when it's in the summer, you're supposed to have the ice cream afterwards because
Yes.
the ice cream's kind of like the under the radar thing, and 9 times out of 10, actually, the ice cream is actually better than even the pizza. But that's a separate situation for a
Well, they're
separate.
different owners now, right? In Spumoni?
Yeah, and the running theme is here, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this, that it's
Oh,
kind
boy.
of went L&B's kind of went down south pretty much since the
Yeah.
the owner he's underground now rather than above ground, but that's a different thing. But yeah, that's kind of the running theme. I actually had L&B last year a couple times, and it wasn't the same. But listen. All American Burger sounds like it's going to be an All American Burger. And I'm looking forward to that next month. And I want to thank everybody that is watching Sportswire Radio's Overtime here with Chris Bizzea of the Liftoff Jets, the Talking Rivals, Patrick Trotty, esteemed author, also the Talking Rivals, Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter, and the Brute Force Brad Weiss, amongst many other things, including the SJC Long Island Golden Eagles men's basketball team, the Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV team, Level Up Softball, also LI Brew Crew. Level Up is the basketball organization, the Long Island Nets, and much, much more here. And Mark Hernandez has chimed in here and says, "Let's go Yankees, let's go Yankees." And do we know a Mark Hernandez here? Am I missing something here? Maybe is it a friend of anybody's here? Do I know a Mark Hernandez? Is anybody missing that here? Let me look at here. Oh, we got some new people that actually, these are just new people that are listening to us because I'm looking at a whole bunch of people that have just checked on our Facebook. So, yeah, Mark, you have a thought or two on the Yankees? I'd be happy to. You're a new listener. Anything you'd like to say? Anything you'd like to jump on in here? And Mark, also, if you like us, we're on 9:30 p.m. all the time on sportnarium.com/player. Also live throughout all of my Facebook channels. That is Northeast Streaming Sports Channel, Sports Report X, Sportswire Radio, also Frankly Speaking Sports, a number of different ones. So if you like us here, Mark, check us out on Facebook and on sportnarium.com/player. So if you have a thought, Mark, I'll get it in. If not, come on by and say hi Friday nights at 9:30 p.m. and we'll talk baseball and much, much more. If you'd like to jump in here, we'll throw you in on the stream even. And we tried it with Rob Maraska, but his phone's got he's got old man phone connection, so we'll have to put him on the StreamYard and kind of just sit him out. But okay, Mark, you spoke your piece. Thank you for the comments. And if you are on sportnarium.com/player, you'll get the sit-down marks, and they'll just go on all day about wrestling, and we'll have some Premier League talk afterwards. And I want to thank everybody for watching, listening to this. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. We'll be back here Friday night, maybe one during the week on some MLB free agency. So thank you, everybody. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. Okay.